Hey, welcome to the FireZone show. Oh Lord, here we go. Starting off
Man,
already.
it is already. What time is it?
No,
It's not even Halloween yet.
It's not late enough for me to be having mistakes already, but there it was.
Here we
Welcome to
go.
the FireZone show. We're here, right? Let's get it right. Let's say it properly. Glad that you guys could join us. Heading into week 4, coming off of an exciting week 3 victory, another down to the wire, walk off this time for the Ravens, walk off field goal in historic fashion. We'll look back at that a little bit, preview the Broncos. Before we do all of that, joined as always by Dennard Melton at the FireZone Show on Twitter. Dennard, how's it going, man?
Oh man, it's going. It's what is it? Saturday, Sunday? What day is it?
We're still in the week. We're still in the week. It is Thursday, believe it or not. A little Thursday night football going on.
Yeah, I can't put that on my TV today. I really can't.
It all blends together. Especially during this last 2 years, year and a half. Starts to blend together. I haven't checked in on the game, and people may listen to this at a different time. Game probably would be over, but little relevance for Ravens fans. Bengals playing the Jags, so a little AFC North tie in there with the Bengals. Obviously, we want to see them lose. So I don't know what the score of the game is, but hopefully they're losing.
It's tied right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Bengals just tied it up.
Oh, so they were losing. Okay, well we'll take that close game. We'll take that.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, let the Jags hang around till the fourth quarter and steal one. We'll take that.
Stop lying to yourself.
Man, I'll take anything I can get. I'll take anything I can get.
Oh my goodness.
Jags ain't gonna go undefeated. Win a game at some point, right?
It's still early.
Yeah. They probably still in the first half, right?
Nah, it's midway through the third quarter.
Okay, see? Hey, we just saw, right? We're gonna talk about this Lions game right now. We just saw.
Yes, we are.
When you let teams hang around,
Oof.
anything can happen.
Ooh.
The game.
That wouldn't.
And I don't want to just say let. I mean, because obviously the Lions and those other teams, they're out there trying to win. I mean, so it's not just like that. But we know there were some things that happened on the offensive side where the score maybe could have been a little bit different for the Ravens. But we talk defense here. We're gonna look at all that talk's probably already been had in other places, but we're gonna talk about the defense. And I think you got to lead off with the Ravens being short on the D line coming into this game.
Yes.
Obviously, they had the COVID issue that flared up kind of late week last week, and so they go into the game without Justin Houston, without Brandon Williams, without Justin Madubuike, without Jaylon Ferguson, and then you lose Dalen Hayes in the first quarter. This was his first game active this year, and he got out there, but then he gets injured early in the first quarter, and I think they put him on the short-term IR earlier this week, so he'll be down for at least 3 weeks. But let's start right there with the D-line. Being that short-handed, what did you think about the way that the D-line played in this game? Because I thought it was pretty good.
I thought it was yeoman's work put in by everyone. McPhee with a busted shoulder hung in there for double his normal snaps. Campbell had double his normal snaps. I mean, I think I heard Wink talking today that Jelly had 41 snaps. I don't think Jelly knows what 41 snaps looks like. And I'm sure he's feeling it this week. So it's a good thing those other gentlemen have been allowed back and play in the sandbox this week to help these gentlemen. But they did everything they were supposed to. Number 69, he came in. We talked about him earlier. He came in and took his snaps, and someone told him, you can make a name for yourself just like some gentlemen did last year when you get your opportunity. And he took well advantage of that situation. So kudos to the inside line. I think the outside linebackers did the best they could until the second half when the Lions decided to stop playing around and involve their backs to put stress on the tiring linebackers who were playing every snap. So I think overall the D-line played very well.
Yeah, shout out to Khalil McKenzie, number 69. Got an opportunity and made the most of it. Put some good stuff on tape out there. Regardless of what happens with the Ravens, he's got that tape out there, and that's something that he can point to and say, "Hey, you give me an opportunity, I go out there and I can contribute to any kind of D-line rotation." So always good to see guys get that opportunity and play well. And yeah, man, the rest of those guys, whoo, you talk about having to strap it up and take on an extra load. I mean, you and I, shared some clips back and forth with Calais Campbell. I mean, he was out there on a mission in that game, and I was impressed. I was impressed because the Lions have a good old line. They're a good group. So
they are a young, physical, athletic offensive line, which I was very impressed in the second half when they took control of that third quarter. Yes, it was against gentlemen who were getting tired, but still, NFL bodies going in there and controlling them up and down the field pretty much the second half was impressive.
Yeah, they had 2 back-to-back drives over 10 plays. It was like an 11-play drive, 12-play drive, so they were stringing some stuff together. Let's go on to the linebackers now, and this seems to be a weekly occurring thing now. Not for us. I mean, yeah, weekly in that we're going to talk about them because we talk about each position group. That's just, the format that we like. But weekly in that when you look around the fan base, particularly on Twitter, people down on Patrick Queen again, man, because he missed a couple tackles here or there. But that seems to be all they want to talk about with him. But let me get your thoughts on Patrick Queen and all of the inside backers.
I thought he played pretty decent for what was going on in front of him, which is a rotation of defensive linemen that you're not used to. Now, as a linebacker, you get used to guys in front of you, and people forget about that. It's a rhythm. Run defense is all about rhythm, and you'll hear defensive coordinators maybe call it a dance because everyone's got to know everyone's movements within the zone. That's why when they played Tennessee in the second half in the playoffs last year, everybody was on the same page because everybody knew everybody's movement. You know what that guy's going to do. You know if the A gap gets stretched, that B Will may go ahead. B Will's going to stretch himself with the A gap, and you'll fit inside of B Will. Well, McKenzie may not know that, and McKenzie may press back into the A gap. Now Queen's got to hesitate, and as a linebacker, when you start hesitating, you can't play. You can't think. You're thinking too much. So first half, not a problem because the Lions really didn't do anything to stress the linebackers. Harrison once again still got to slow down. He is way too fast right now. Way too fast doing things, which is why I think Bynes has been signed to the 53-man roster just to have someone on the field next to Queen who can communicate. So not everything's on Queen to communicate. Not only Harrison's responsibility, his responsibility, and everybody else. Queen can relax for a second. So Bynes may end up taking a dive just so Queen can stop thinking about doing everything else and just play football for a minute. Let me get my mind right. Let me do this. He's playing well, but he's overthinking and over pursuing in moments that he shouldn't be doing what he's doing. And those things are going to come because, once again, he is still less than 2 years into playing linebacker in any capacity. Whatever he did at LSU, glorified safety. Just run around, make plays. you're better than 98% of the athletes you're going to see on the field at a given time, unless it's Alabama or across the way from you. That's it. Then we might have to play some football a little bit. Other than that, we're going to let you run around. Now he's in a constructive thing. It's learning. Everybody needs to calm down. This man has every tool that you need as a linebacker. He's young.
Yep.
He wants to learn. He understands what it takes to be good. He's got people around him who understand the game and going to teach him right. The best thing that walked through the door was Ryan. Literally, the best thing that walked through the door was him, because you got to get back to the basics. And the basics of playing linebacker is physicality. And if you're not physical to the point of attack, you're never going to get it. And I think let him progress, let him grow. He's going to have games like this. But once it fully clicks, y'all are going to be mad.
To be back on the bandwagon, to be jumping back on.
Jumping back on.
And, you know, Wink talked about that youth and that experience today. He did his regular Thursday presser. And he said, you know, when these guys are in years 3 and 4, they're going to look back at how they played now. And they're like, man, I can't believe I was doing some of that stuff back then.
Right.
Because he's like, you know, they're so young. He's like, people just don't understand. They're so young. And he said it takes time to learn how to play linebacker at this level. This is not, like you were saying, this is not college, and even LSU, which is, you know, major D1 program. It's not the NFL. So he said it just takes time. And you just have to be patient with those guys. But to your point, I still think that they're playing well with their opportunities overall. There's going to be some ups and downs. That's part of that experience and that growth. But I think overall, they're still playing pretty well. We'll go on to the secondary now. Good to get Jimmy Smith back for this game. He got out there and they kind of eased him in a little bit. Deshaun Elliott got dinged up again in this one, and Stevens had to come on. I mean, Stevens was going to play anyway. He's in the rotation, but he probably had to take on a little bit more with Elliott going out. So that's been back-to-back for him, you know, having to take on probably a little bit more than maybe what they had initially intended going into the game. But how do you think secondary played?
I would say they played as well as they could have in this, once again, in the circumstance they were in the second half. Not really getting a pass rush. Detroit really wasn't challenging them in terms of route combinations and things like that stuff. It was more get the secondary out of there and dump it off to the running backs and get one-on-one with the linebackers. And then when they did go challenge outside, it was deep balls or a lot of back shoulder type stuff and things of that sort. So there's only so much you can do when the game plan goes to that for the offense, which is you need to get a pass rush with 4, or you are sitting ducks, because you can't blitz that, because they're going to throw the deep stuff and they're going to isolate your corners, and then all bad things start happening. Because then you're putting your corners in islands, and you can win 9 out of 9 times, but that one he misses is going to go for 6, and that's going to change the whole game. So they played as well as they could have played in the situation they were put in.
Yeah, and I think you saw early in the game, and at least in that first half, Wink was getting the safeties involved in the pressures too, which obviously he loves to do. So you'd see him bringing Clark, you'd see him bring Elliott and Clark. And then, you know, kind of backed off of that, some of that in the second half. Some of that might have had to do with Elliott going down. Maybe back off of some of that stuff. Maybe some of it just what the Lions were doing. Like you said, they started kind of getting the ball out quicker, getting it to backs and letting them, you know, do some things. So he kind of got back to his pressure calling ways a little bit in this game, at least in that first half. You know, not sitting back as much as he did against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, but you know, different group of guys, different quarterback. So, you know, you figured he was probably going to do a little bit more of that in this game, and they got after Goff early a little bit, but then seemed like the Lions were able to kind of settle in the second half and give him a little bit more time. Or like I said, he was getting the ball out. They didn't necessarily have to give him much more time. He was just getting the ball out quick to the backs. Smart way to do it, right?
Yep, right.
Don't try to stand in there and block that stuff up. Just get it out and let the backs do their thing. Anything else you wanted to touch on in this game? Because I know we also wanted to try to do a preview of the Broncos here too. Anything else stand out for you on the defense?
No, I will say this: if Elliott can't go, it's good that it's a full week of practice for Stevens because they won't be limited in their packages. I think that may have contributed, like you said, to a little bit more vanilla in the second half because Stevens hadn't practiced the packages that they had in place. Now this week they'll have everything in because they're gonna say you either know it or you don't know it. And then I think we'll see a different Stevens. And I think we'll see a lot more Geno Stone because of what we're going to talk about here with Broncos.
Yeah, that's perfect segue. Perfect segue into this Broncos game. A little bit different from a talent standpoint when you look at this Broncos team, and they've got injuries. I mean, the Ravens, everybody kind of knows the Ravens' injury history and what they're dealing with, but Broncos kind of dealing with some stuff too. They lost Jerry Jeudy a little bit earlier, their wide receiver out of Alabama a little bit earlier this year. He'll be back. He's not going for the season. I think he had a high ankle sprain, but he's not coming back this Sunday. Thank goodness. But he'll be back later in the year. They did lose KJ Hamler for the season, unfortunately. He had a pretty nasty looking ACL injury. So he's out for the year. But they still have Cortland Sutton. They still have Tim Patrick, former Raven Tim Patrick. Big dude, man. He looks like a
big dude. Yeah,
man, he's a big dude. And they've got to go ahead.
He grew up.
He's a big dude. I was watching you, and I know you watched some of them today too, man. When you see him standing out there, even next to Cortland Sutton, and Cortland Sutton's not a small dude. Patrick's a big dude, man.
Sometimes systems work better for other guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's just how it goes. Sometimes it's a numbers game too. And they got two tight ends who can run a little bit. Noah Fant, he can run. And I'm just gonna say Albert O. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce Albert's last name.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go with Albert O.
We don't need to get shadow banned because you can't pronounce his name.
He can run a little bit too. And then of course, they got Melvin Gordon, who we've seen what he can do as a running back in this league, and the rookie Javonte Williams out of North Carolina, who really had a good career there at UNC. And I was impressed with him in pass protection, especially. He ain't afraid to stick his face in there. I think, with rookie running backs, there's always like the identity part of pass protection, like who you're supposed to block. And that's obviously a big learning curve. But for the physical part of it, like just being willing to stick your face in there, he ain't shy about that. I'm not saying he's always going to identify the right person 100% of the time, but when he knows who he's supposed to block, or even if he doesn't, but he decides I'm going to block this guy, he sticks his face in there. So I like that about him. But we'll kind of do what we do when we do the recap. So looking forward to this Broncos game, the offensive line, let's start there because they've got some injuries there too. It looks like their right guard and their left guard could be out this week. Neither guy has practiced this week. And then you could see a rookie in Quentin Meinertz come in at left guard. I think he's played a little bit this season already. And then Netane Muti, I might be mispronouncing his name too. Sorry if I am. But he played a little bit in the Jags game, and he may come in at right guard. So when you see that as a defensive coordinator, kind of some youth and a little bit of inexperience on the offensive line, what do you think? It on paper, right? It looks good because the Ravens are getting guys back on the D line, and the Broncos may be having to bring some reserves in. But I mean, we saw that in the first week with Raiders, right? Raiders had to bring some reserve offensive line in and played pretty well. But anyway, different game. What do you think about that kind of O-line, D-line matchup?
So first thing as a defensive coordinator, I'm worried about my team taking this lightly because of the injuries up front. So I have to pound into their head that this game, we must stop the run. At all costs, I need to be able to stop the run with 7 in the box. And I'm not going to change. And that's the theme throughout the week, because if they're able to run the football with backup offensive linemen, it's going to be a very, very long day. Because now you already kind of go into the game not really having a sense of what the offensive coordinator is going to call. Because they're going to change it up because their personnel is different. So he's going to change and call things a little different. So is he going to be a little more heavy play action? Is he going to be a little more heavy this way? Is he going to run a little more gadget plays? Because they seem, from what I saw in the Jets game and in the Jaguars game, they have it built into their offense where they can get a little gadgety with motions and things of that sort. So we as Ravens fans know our defense is very susceptible to those types of plays. So those are my two biggest worries as a defensive line and a defensive coordinator going into this game, is making sure that I establish early dominance up front to make them one-dimensional, which is pass, and I can figure it out from there. If a wounded team is able to be balanced, buckle up. you in for a 13-10 game, and you're not going to like it.
It's going to be a long day.
Long day.
Well, one thing that should help for sure about trying to stop that run game, like we said, is getting those guys on the D line back, and then taking it to the linebacker level. Start with run game, because, like I said, in coverage, matching up against those tight ends, that's going to be a challenge. But in the run game, to the point that you were making earlier about the different D linemen in the Lions game, well, now you're getting some of those guys who you're used to playing with back, right? For guys like Queen and now Bynes, like you said, who's playing a little bit more, Harrison, even Chris Board, who got in there for some snaps. Now you're getting some guys back who you have more of a feel with, and you kind of know how they're going to play certain blocks and certain runs. That's got to help, right?
Absolutely. It's relaxing as a linebacker to understand that you don't have to worry about what's going on in front of you. You just worry about your job, and that's the only way you can operate as a linebacker. If you worry about someone else's job, your job is going to be the first one exposed. It ain't going to be the D-line, because you can cover up a D-lineman's mistake. You can almost cover up a secondary mistake with D-line pressure. A mistake in a linebacker is either the running back's going to hit his head on the goalpost for 60, or the running back's going to hit his head on the goalpost for 60.
I don't like either one of those.
Yeah.
And Melvin Gordon's got a 70-yard run this year. Yeah, I forget who we got it against. But he's still one of those guys. I mean, I don't know if he's Chargers Melvin Gordon, but you give him a crease, miss a tackle, and I think he can still get out on you. And so, you don't obviously want that to happen. And I mentioned the tight ends. Now, kind of thinking about pass coverage a little bit. Noah Fant, probably known a little bit more as a receiving tight end than a blocker. So that's going to be a challenge for those guys. And we know they've kind of had, I mean, it's been a tough tight end matchup going back to the first game, right? You got Waller, then you got Kelsey. I think they did a pretty decent job against Hockenson last week. Having Jimmy back probably helped some with that. And now you get Noah Fant and Albert O. Now people may not, think about them in that same category as Waller and Kelsey. Totally understandable. Maybe not even Hockenson. But, these guys, they can run. And I think that's always a challenge when you got tight ends who can run and make catches. So, that's something to keep an eye on, I think, in this game. Or do you think that having Jimmy back, again, And he talked about that. Jimmy talked about that during his presser, that that's who he's been really for like the last 3 years of his career. He's the matchup guy. He called himself a mercenary. He said, "This is what I am." They look at whoever the fast tight end is that week, and that's the guy that I'm probably going to be on. So we'll probably see some of that. So maybe I'm overdoing it with the linebacker matchup on the tight end. Maybe it's going to be more Jimmy.
I would agree with that statement that it'll be more Jimmy. I think I say the good thing about playing the Lions last week is you're going to literally see the exact same thing this week. You're going to see a ton of throws to the running backs, check down out of the backfield. You're going to see a lot of trying to get the tight ends involved over the middle, trying to create matchup issues with your linebackers. And then Bridgewater is going to use their disrespectful play action game and try to go deep. And they don't care if it's 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10. It's play action. And if the first read's not open, he's going deep in the story. And he believes in Sutton and he believes in Patrick to either make a play or the DB's not going to make a play. And that's okay. But I think Teddy Bridgewater is a little risky with the football. I think he's a little careless with not so much his throws, but more of his awareness in the pocket. And I think that's what's gotten him in trouble in each one of his kind of stops when, even in Minnesota, when he was going to be the star, I think that was kind of a little bit of the knock was he wasn't strong in the pocket, as they would say. Josh Allen, he's pretty strong in the pocket. Lamar's now strong in the pocket. He wasn't strong in the pocket prior years. Even Mahomes, when his feet are set, he's strong in the pocket. I think that's kind of the problem with Mahomes right now. I think his mechanics are all out of whack, but that's another story for another day. But I just think, they've seen it before with the Lions. They need to understand the assignment this week, which is tackle, tackle, and tackle.
And we saw that with some of the clips from the open part of practice this week. They were doing tackling drills. They had the donuts out. They had the shields out.
Tackling. It was a bad week of practice. I remember in college when you would see it on the board. And, we practiced Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we had like walkthroughs on Friday. So Tuesday was always the heavy day. You put in your game plan. You'd be in full pads, like your typical, like shake out the cobwebs from Saturday and things like that. So that was normally typical. Wednesday was normally you gear down, may or may not be in pads, like full pads. You might be in your shells, blah, 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 blah. Thursday, barely in shells, whatever nonsense. When you had a bad week of film and you saw tackling was bad and you saw the schedule go up on Wednesday was full pads, you knew Wednesday was going to be a horrible day. It had no coach woke up this morning and chose violence.
And when he's talking about it in pressers, you knew it was coming. When he is saying that we got to become a better tackling team, right? He's talking about it. Marlon Humphrey's up there talking about it. He said, I went up to the coach coming off the field saying we got to tackle better. So, and you could see him even in that Lions game. I think I might have shared a clip with you or some people. We got a little small group where he was coming up after a tackle that Queen missed. And he was giving him the wrap up. He's like, come on, you got to wrap up. So, it's obviously something of. And, I think Harbs had said up until this week, just because of the way the schedule had been going, they hadn't had a chance to get any padded, tackling practices in. But obviously they made it a priority.
They fit it in this week. It wasn't going to miss the schedule this week.
They found a way to make it happen. But one other thing I wanted to ask you, I did want to ask you about this going into this game, because you mentioned this to me, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about it here. Do you see this as a maybe heavier pressure game?
Yes, I could see. You saw the beginnings of it in the Lions game until Deshaun Elliott got hurt. I think they would have kept coming after Goff if Elliott did not get hurt. Now it really depends on the secondary because now Avert popped up on the injury report this week with his ankle. I think another guy on the secondary popped up on the list too. So
on there.
Yep. I mean, so who knows? You would think they would come after him because if you watch the Denver games, I haven't seen the first one. I kind of throw the first game out for a lot of teams because it's not really who you are per se. It's kind of what you game plan for 6 months to think you are. So, once they get third, fourth, fifth week of the season, you start really seeing team personalities. And I don't think Denver has really faced a lot of pressure. And I think the Ravens have enough in the secondary to be able to pressure this Denver team without the likes of Jared Jeudy and without Hamlin. If those guys were in there with the secondary we had, we might be seeing an Indianapolis Colts game from last year where we just sit, cover two and dare them to throw. But I would expect them, if they feel comfortable enough with the matchups they have in the secondary, it could be a Rex Ryan. It could be back in the day Rex Ryan special. Like he just looks at his call sheet, and every defensive coordinator has one of these days where you look at your call sheet and nothing on your call sheet is all blitzes, and you just have like one little section of zone. You're like, this is gonna be a good day.
I love to see it. You and I talk about this. I'm a big fan of pressure. I love when they send it. I understand there's situations with certain opponents where that's probably not to your advantage, like the Chiefs. But
Green Bay. Green Bay. Nope. We'll not see any type of pressure. If you did that, you're wrong.
I looked at the other guy. You're right. It's Geno Stone. He's the other guy who was on the injury report. He's got a thigh. He practiced. It was limited, but he practiced. But yeah, him, Averett were limited, and then Elliott was a DNP with his quad. So, but to keep an eye on him. But like you said, if he doesn't go, then we expect to see more of Brandon Stevens, more Jimmy. Obviously, Jimmy being back, that helps. And Jimmy is in that mercenary role, so you'll see him some at corner, you'll see him some at safety, you'll see him some up at the line. He's kind of everywhere at this point in his career. He says he enjoys it. He said, it lets you do some different things because he was talking about when you're an outside corner, you see the game a certain way, you see things a certain way, you're kind of focused on certain things. And he said when you're at safety, you're freed up a little bit more. You're freed up to kind of move around a little bit more. You see different things. And he's kind of enjoyed, getting some of those opportunities because he said, sometimes the corner, if they don't want to throw at you, they just won't. And you're just out there and, you might not see the ball come your way very much. But he's like, in safety, it's a little harder to do that in this defense because he moves the safeties around so much. So he was like, you can't just avoid me.
And that and at safety and playing in high school, you can always go find trouble as a safety. Like you don't have to wait for it to come find you. You like you say, you have a lot more freedom to go poke your nose in certain things that you may or may not need to be poking your nose into, but you can still do it because you're safety.
Freedom. Yeah,
Freedom.
That's what you want to do. So yeah, it'll be interesting to me. That's going to be an interesting matchup. The Broncos passing game and that O line being able to protect Teddy. versus what the Ravens want to do. I think they'll be able to play the run pretty well, getting their guys back on the D line, and through these early games when those guys have been there, they've played the run well.
Yes.
They really haven't given up any big yardage run games when those guys have all been there. So I would expect that standard to continue. So then that kind of makes you think, okay, maybe it's going to be more on Teddy and that passing game to make things happen. But to your point, it could be down the field stuff with wide receivers or middle field with tight end, but it might be underneath with tight ends and running backs, kind of like what you said the Lions were doing. And we saw that gave the Ravens some challenge when they started to do that. So we talked about earlier today how much of a copycat league the NFL really is. I mean, people just see stuff and they'll just immediately do it the following week if they saw that the previous week. It was something you had trouble with.
Yep.
So I would expect to see some of that. Anything else on this Broncos game? If not, I think we're in a good place.
Absolutely, I'm good.
All right. Well, hey, look, Ravens on the road again this week, going up in Denver in that thin air. I mean, Justin Tucker still riding that high, talking about, hey, maybe we'll get a 68-yarder, and maybe we'll get we can try to break the record again. So he's still feeling it.
Stay in your lane, Mr. Tucker. Stay in your lane.
He's not calling for it. He's like, if they give us, if we're in that situation and that's what they need, they give us the opportunity. But hey, he's feeling it. So good for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we appreciate everybody as always. Thank you for listening. Continue to like, subscribe, download. Obviously, this is going to be out the video version on the Two Guys Watching Football YouTube channel. There'll also be an audio version out on Two Guys Watching Football podcast platform. Of course, you can get that on anything, anywhere that you listen to your podcast. That'll be out there. So we got you covered audio, we got you covered video. We hit you with a recap and a preview this week in the same show. So, getting more efficient, right? Getting more efficient as the season goes on. But we appreciate everybody, and we'll get at you again next week. Y'all be good.